Hello everybody and welcome back. Now whether you're making a very simple spiral staircase like this, or perhaps something a bit more extravagant like this well, duplication is key to being able to make these things very quickly. Let's go find out some more. Now before we get going, I want to go into this well in a little bit more detail, because I know some of you will be thinking, how are we going to make that with what we've learnt so far? Well, if we have a closer look, and I've left it like this deliberately, I don't want to see anybody's work like this. If we have a look over in the outliner, even though it's grouped into these separate collections, which we'll deal with later on, you see here it says well. If we open up that, everything is a cube. I think literally everything is a cube if I scroll down here. So take this tile for example, it is a cube that's been squished down. This piece of wood, this support, again, is something that started and originated as a cube. And there's lots of detail in here. There's slats holding up the tiles on the roof. The tiles are all slightly higgledy-piggledy. I'll show you how to do that as we go through this lecture. But the other thing to bear in mind is I'm going to be caught out with this several times, I'm sure, but we need to sort out our naming right from the very beginning. If these were called something else, like if I click on the tile here, if it was actually called tile rather than cube.106, I would be able to search for it. And that would have been really useful because I really wanted to show all of these coloured in. But I can't do that now. I really can't be bothered going through and selecting each one individually. That would take a long time to do. Anyway, without any further ado, let's hop on over and into a brand new Blender file. Okay, so welcome to the default blend scene. Now, in front of us here, we've got our cube, we've got a camera and a lamp. All of these objects can be duplicated. You can do this under the object menu. So with the cube selected, we're going to go to object, and we can see we've got two types of duplication. We can duplicate them, or we can linked duplicate them. The main difference between this is if you link something, it means you can change the properties of that object and all of the other ones that are linked will inherit it. We'll use those more later on, but for the moment we're going to use duplicate objects. Now if I just go ahead and click on that, we see we get another cube straight away. Now we can place that, or we can be more precise, we can lock it to the x-axis and move it along slightly. So there we go, we've got two objects next to one another, and cube 001 is a duplicate of this one here, the original cube. And of course if we duplicate, I'm going to use Shift and D this time to duplicate. This one will be called cube 002. Now you can name these over in the outliner itself. We can just click on this and call it a cube or whatever. They must have unique names, that is important, but generally I like to name them over here in the object properties. We see here it also says cube. We can click in here and let's call it a stair. And there are going to be multiple stairs. Okay, so it might be worthwhile, now we've named it stair, getting rid of these other two cubes. Now I'm going to hold down Shift, select both of them, and I'm going to press the delete key on my keyboard just to get rid of them. They're out of the way now without any confirmation. That's one of the differences. If I'd use the X key, we get this little confirmation box up. Okay, so now that I've done that, we've got this stair here. Now, it's not exactly a stair yet, but we can go ahead, scale it on the Z-axis by maybe 0.1 to get it really flat. And let's scale it on the X-axis by 0.5 to get it more like a slab. Okay, that's looking pretty good. I'm going to look at it exactly from the side. So I'm going to go over to my little gimbal over on the top right, and I'm going to click the X. I could have also pressed the number pad 3 if I wanted to. And now I can zoom in, go G, Z, and just lift it up so it's roughly sitting where Z equals 0. Now that I've done that, I can go around to the top view and zoom out slightly. And the reason why I'm on a top view here is so I can duplicate. It's going to be called stair.001. In this case, I'm fine with them being appended 001, 002, etc. And I'm going to move this across ever so slightly. I'm then going to rotate it. Now, I could rotate it by an arbitrary amount, or I could be really precise about it and work out how many stairs I need going round. In this case, I'm going to rotate it on the Z-axis, so I am going to lock it, which it should be from this view, but just to be precise about it, and I'm going to rotate it by 30 degrees. Now we can see it's rotated the wrong 30 degrees. It's gone counterclockwise. So I'm going to press the minus key, and that will make it rotate minus 30, and I'm going to press return. I'm then going to move it to roughly the right position. It's not ideal, maybe a little shallower in future. Then I'm going to just whiz round to the side view and go GZ and lift it up. So here we go, we've got the first couple of steps coming together. Now you can just continue that, so we can go Shift and D and duplicate, lift that one up ever so slightly so it's the right height, whiz round to the top, rotate it by another minus 30, and then go G and move it roughly into the right place, and there we go, we can start building these steps up. Now one of the things that you may immediately figure out is, hang on a minute, can't I just select all three and then duplicate all of them? You're right, you can. And then we can whiz round to the side, lift it up to roughly the right height, go around to the top and move it around. And here we're going to have to rotate it by, I think, 90. There we go. And we've got a much tighter spiral staircase than I had in the preview. Why don't we go ahead and add into here another mesh object, a cylinder perhaps, and scale that down. And then scale it on the Z-axis and just make that a bit bigger. Then whiz round to the top and place it in the center of all of these, which will be roughly there. I'm going to scale it up again. And there we go, we've got a spiral staircase going around this pillar. Now that is a bit tall, so I'm going to go Scale Z and just make it a bit smaller again. And then go GZ and lift it up. And the final thing I might want to do here is go ahead and add in a ground plane. So I'm going to go Shift and A and add in another mesh type, which is a plane. And I'm just going to scale that up. Now you may notice that I've not applied any of my transforms at the moment, and that's because I'm just playing. As we're going along normally, I would suggest applying transforms, especially if you've scaled things as we've gone. So here, for instance, if I had gone Control and A and applied the rotation and scale immediately, then the next time we go through, I could do that. Or I could select everything and also apply the rotation and scale. And then we should find, if we have a look over in the transform, whenever we select any of these objects, we can see that the rotation is 0, and the scale is 1, which means that those have been applied. Finally, this plane here, I did digress a little. What I can do is go straight over to its properties and name it ground. You know, something useful right from the very beginning. If you carry on and make a real mess of things, it's very hard, because now in the outliner, I can search for stair. And there we go, I can select, by holding down Shift, all of the stairs very quickly. If you had many stairs, that would be a real pain as well. So how about we group these stairs in their own collection? Well, with them selected, what we can do is press the M key over in the 3D editor window and create a new collection. And we can call that collection Stairs. Once we've done that, we need to click OK. And then we can see we've got a scene collection, of which there is one collection called Stairs. And if I minimize that down, I'm going to clear my search first. We can see that the stairs themselves, all of those mesh objects, are grouped in their own collection. And that really does help manage your objects, especially when you're going to have hundreds and hundreds in more complex models. Being able to group them into those collections is really important for managing your scenes. So we've got the organization and the naming. Very, very important. And with that, it's time for your challenge. Okay, everybody, so your challenge for this lecture is to make a simple object or scene with primitives. Now remember, you can rotate, scale, and move your pieces around once you've placed them in your scene. And of course, repeated items, you can just duplicate again and again. Very useful. Remember, you can also select multiple things at once to duplicate them if it's part of a larger object. Now, if you complete a simple object with ease, why don't you try something else more challenging straight away? It's important to dive in straight away and continue those skills. Well, like the well I showed you earlier on would be a great example. Something with more objects in, a bit more difficult to manage. Or you can block out a more complex scene, whether that's an interior or exterior scene, perhaps one that you want to work on more as you develop your skills throughout the course. Pause the video now and give that a go. Hello everybody and welcome back. I'm really looking forward to seeing what you've come up with. I'm going to go ahead now and hop on over into Blender and create my well scene again. Okay everybody, this is going to be really quick, I hope, to go and do this. I'm going to make the well that we saw earlier. So I'm going to start off with my cube here and scale it on the Z-axis by 0.1. And, I'm going to scale it everywhere by 0.1 and scale it on the y-axis by 2. So it's more like a brick. I'm going to zoom into that brick and go GZ 0.05. Because then I think, no, it's not at all. I thought that would have been on the ground perfectly, but it's not. I'm going to lift it up to around there, and that's a good start. Now I'm going to go and look at this brick from the very top. And I'm literally going to duplicate it, rotate it by 30, lift it up to roughly here, and I'm going to continue doing that. But I'm going to select the second one, duplicate that, rotate those by 60, and then put it in roughly the right position. That's almost there now. We're going to duplicate again, rotate by 105. No, 120. Rotate by 120. Now that I don't know where these have disappeared off to, they're all the way over there. Let's bring them back in. So rotate by 120. There we go. And then we can plop that roughly in the right place. I'm just going to duplicate those again because I think if we go ahead, I'm going to save my file as we go as well, and I'm going to call it well. Let's save. Okay, so rotate by 120, and I think I might be wrong, but I think we're done. Excellent. So that's the basis for the well at the bottom. Looking good so far. I'm just going to click and box select everything. Now, there is some intersection here. That's something we do need to concern ourselves with, but not really at this stage. But what we can now do is whiz round to the side, duplicate, lift it up. I'm not going to be exact with my placement. You will notice that things in the real world are not precise. So it's important that we're not precise here either. I'm going to hold down Shift and select multiple areas. I'm going to rotate them on the Z-axis. Now I don't have to be precise there because I'm going to go straight back in and rotate ever so slightly so that none of these bricks line up with one another. That's not going to be convincing, and you might argue that this is a little over the top, and you know what, you might be right. But in this case, that now looks much better. Now again, we've got a little bits of intersecting going on here. I'm not going to worry about that for the moment. There are ways around it, but again, it's just the basics here. Now, the first thing that I've done that I can slap my wrist for is everything is called cube. So I'm going to slap my wrist there, but before I do anything else, I'm going to highlight all of these, confirm that they're all selected, and move them to their own collection and call it Brick Well. At least then I'll be able to select all of these individually because they're all grouped together. Now the next thing that I might want to do is go Mesh, Cube, scale it everywhere but the Z-axis, so it's nice and tall. I'm going to look at it from the side and lift it up to roughly the right place. And I'm going to, before I duplicate it, I'm going to call this wooden support or wooden frame. I'm going to call it the frame. So this is going to be the originating piece, and then everything else will actually come from this. So I can duplicate that, and I'm going to pop it, make sure it's selected, duplicate it, and pop it roughly over the other side in the right place. I'm going to duplicate it again, rotate this around. Now I'm going to be precise and go 90 degrees and then scale this up. And then we look around and we see we've got something like that. Looking pretty good so far. So let's again look at it from this side, duplicate, rotate 90, lift it up to about here. And I'm going to scale that on the y-axis only. So it's going to make it longer. I'm going to whiz round to I'm going to duplicate that. And you can see here that we just repeat this over and over again. So I'm going to disappear for a few minutes whilst I do that. And I'll just speed up the video and I'll see you back again shortly. And there we go. I'm pretty happy with how that's turned out. I don't know what you've done with yours, but I'm really looking forward to seeing what you've made. I can see a few things here that I'd tweak and improve, but overall, this is a really good example of how you can really rapidly produce objects in your world by just duplicating and doing no actual modelling. How cool is that? Well, anyway, that's the solution for my challenge on this lecture. It doesn't matter whether you've kept it basic or you've gone to this level or even beyond. I can't wait to see what you've produced. So please do save your files and keep them, because we're going to get them ready to present soon so you can share your work with both me and your fellow students. Until then, I'll see you in the next lecture.